With me today is Gordon Duncan, software architect for InfoWorks 360, and I also have Elliot Rosenfeld with me today, who's from our learning experience team, who's going to be helping out maybe with some of the questions. I mentioned this is a special webcast. It's a little bit more of the training flavor. So we've got some handout and example material that you might want to get access to. So you can see the instructions on your screen there. You want to go to the InfoWorks 360 forum, which is autodesk.com/InfoWorks 360 forum. Then click General Discussion, as the screenshot shows on the right. Then you'll see a post there for handouts for the September 16th webcast. So you want to click that link. And then in there you'll see a link to actually get to the files and instructions on how to use them. And I'll get into some detail in just a second. But we've basically got three files. One that is a PDF, which is just some step-by-step instructions that Gordon worked up. It's a very nice account of how to work through the tools. Then we've got some example data in an Excel spreadsheet that I think Gordon is going to use to establish some traffic demand numbers in the software. And then the big one is we've actually provided the model itself. It's called Chandler, and it's the InfraWorks model that we're going to be using for the demonstration. And if you want to get your hands on that, what you'll need to do, it's one of the files in the package on that link. And if you once you download it and extract the main zip file, you'll see the model as its own zip file. So you'll want to extract that too. That will extract to a folder called chandler.files and a file called chandler.sqlite. You'll want to copy or move those two items over to where your InfraWorks 360 models are stored. The default is Documents, Autodesk InfraWorks Models, but you can put them, wherever you like to store your models. And then once you have that in place, you're going to want to open that Chandler model. And then this next screen is really important. Once you get the model open, the model happens to be actually connected to Gordon's InfraWorks 360 account. And for this to work for you, for the tools to work for you the way he's going to show them, you're going to need to disconnect that model. I have the icon highlighted there on the slide. And that's under the Settings and Utilities tools in InfraWorks 360 is where you'll find that disconnect model. So you want to disconnect the model. It'll throw up a warning dialogues like, are you sure you want to do this? Click yes. And then republish the model. You can see in the screenshot next to number 5, if you've never published a model, the sign on the icon at the top of your screen is at the top left near your login name. You can go ahead and publish that model. I believe that you need to check all the proposals, so that's what you see in the other screenshot with all the red check marks. So you want to make sure you check all those and then publish the model to any group you like. You can pick any group. You can see I picked a default group under my account. Once you've done all that, then it will fully enable the traffic simulation tools that Gordon's going to be showing you. And of course, by the way, you have to have the latest version of InfraWorks 360 and the, of course, if you have the latest version, traffic simulation is going to be enabled by default. So you'll need that as well. If you're using an older version of InfraWorks 360, this likely is not going to work for you. So with that, just real quickly, I want to go through some community stuff while you guys are working on getting the model and the information downloaded and ready to go. If you're new to our webcast series, we do this twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And our goals are really just to give you a chance to get closer and more in tune with our product team and vice versa, to get them to know a little bit more about you guys and what you need and what you like to learn and the direction you'd like the software to go. Our next webcast will be on October 7th. The topic is Collaboration 101, so we'll be going over some of the collaboration tools in InfraWorks 360 and how to get the most out of those so you can leverage the tool without any boundaries based on geography. You can have a team spread out all over the world working in the same project. I want to do a quick poll. We like to find out what your usage level of InfraWorks 360 is. So if you wouldn't mind just picking your answer on the poll that's appeared on the screen. And the answers range from not even having it installed to not living without it. And as this webcast series has gone on from, I think, back in April, we've seen the weight shift downward from, folks just dabbling to folks using it regularly. And as I'm watching the results come in, about 65% of you have voted so far. We're definitely getting heavier numbers on the third and fourth option, with right now the regular use option winning. So I'll give you guys a couple more seconds to cast your votes there. And as you continue to vote, the I regularly use it option is taking more and more of a lead, so that is great news to know that folks are using it regularly. Of course, someday we hope 100% will be on that last option where we can't live without it. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll down. Appreciate everyone's vote there. That data is really important to us. And I want to encourage you to every day visit the InfoWorks 360 community. We've got live feeds in there from the forum, from the idea station, where you can give your ideas or see other people's ideas on how we need to improve the software. Infra tips are quick, 30-second, 1-minute tips on how to get more productive or learn how to do something new with the software. And then we've got lots of other features there as well that you're definitely going to want to check out, all centering around other InfraWorks 360 users and the product team and things that are directly relevant to users of the software. Real quick disclaimer, if we happen to talk about anything that's in preview or in labs, which I don't think we're going to in this session, but just in case a question comes up, we just want everyone to understand that anything that's under preview or labs status, there's no guarantee that it will ever exist in the software. These are just features that we're trying out, looking for feedback, so we just want you to be clear on that. Just one more reminder about the class handouts. If you joined us late, there are some files available for you, a PDF of some step-by-step instructions, an example Excel spreadsheet that has some demand data in it, and probably the most important one is the example model. Now, if you're joining late, you probably are better off just kind of chilling out and watching the webcast, and then you can pick up the recording afterwards and try to work through the stuff yourself. But if you've already downloaded everything and you're ready to go, you've got your model open and you've disconnected it and republished it, then you can go ahead and give a shot at following along. We do want you to understand, though, we have a big group today. In fact, we're expecting a record number of attendees. We'll take general questions through the questions window. We can't open the audio because of the size of our group. But if you have a general question, please post it in the questions panel, and we'll be standing by watching for those questions. But we can't really do classroom support, so if you're stuck or you're not sure what to do next, recommendation is just relax, watch the session. We're recording it, and you can try again later once the recording is made available. That usually happens within a day or two. And then if you still have a question, that's what the forum is great for, so you can post your question to the forum. We'll be watching it here at Autodesk. We'll be watching for questions on the webcast, as will other users who are attending, or maybe not. Maybe they're just very knowledgeable about InfraWorks 360 and they can help you out. So we'll do our best to work with you through kind of an experimental thing we're trying today with a little bit more of a training flavor, but bear with us as we're very limited in how much support we can offer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gordon, and he's going to take it away. It's all yours, Gordon.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen there. Okay, is that good? You can see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so thanks. Okay, so last webcast on traffic simulation, our focus was mainly on the animation part. And this time we're going to look more at the traffic analysis and do that in a way that you can compare alternative design proposals and use the analysis to say, well, I've got this idea, I've got this proposal I want to look at in InfoWorks. How can I get some traffic analysis numbers out of that and display in a way of illustrating which proposal is the best one. So just to start at the beginning, there's a model here that we're going to open in a second. Most of you will know this, but the way this was created was through Model Builder. So, you know, the way you start your model to begin with is you open Model Builder like this. We've chosen the town of Chandler in Arizona. So, you know, you zoom to that area. As you can see, it's a suburb of Phoenix. And then you zoom into the area that you want your model to be built. This up here, it shows you the area that you've got selected. And it has to be less than 200 at the moment, 200 square kilometers. And the area I've selected is kind of like that. So you just give it a name, create model, and you're ready to go. After you do that, in a couple of minutes after that, depending on how busy it is, you'll get an email to say that your model's ready, and it'll appear in your home screen a bit like this. So let's dive straight in there. And you'll see a model that looks a bit like this. If you take that. So here I'm in the master proposal, and I'm going to create a bunch of different proposals that are already here in the proposal list, but the master proposal is one I'm just using to illustrate a few points at the moment, so there's not really any real traffic analysis stuff done in there yet. So one of the things you'll need to do is figure out what the area is that you're going to be looking at. So in this exercise, we're going to be looking at this area here in the middle. And there's like an empty site here. Our exercise is saying, well, say we're going to develop that site. What's the access to the site going to be like? We're going to look at a couple of different alternatives and compare those to the base case, the case where there's nothing there, and see what difference there is to the traffic when the site is in operation. So jumping straight into the traffic simulation tool, the way you create a traffic simulation area is you click on that button. Here's one that was already created. I'm just going to get rid of this one and get rid of the other one as well. Okay, so start that again. This is what you'll see to begin with when you're going to create a new traffic study area. You'll notice that some of the roads are highlighted in blue here, and those are roads that have already been converted to design roads. So for traffic simulation, you need to have design roads. So let's take a different area down here and assume that this is the bit that we're going to do. Use for our traffic study area just for the moment. When you finish and double-click the last point, you'll get a message like this saying that some of the roads inside that area are planning roads. Do you want to convert them to design roads? And that'll go through the roads one at a time, converting them all to design roads. So that's a new feature that's in the latest release, the September release of InfraWorks, and that's pretty useful. I'm not going to do that because that takes a little bit of time, but you might want to do that if you want to create a new traffic study area. Okay, so if they're not design roads, they'll just show as red here. If you want to go in and convert them manually, which sometimes can be better, then you need to come out of the traffic simulation mode again, select a road, go to Edit, and then right-click again, and you've got this Convert to Design Road. So I'll do that in a couple of roads here. And you'll see that when both roads are design roads, you have what we call a design intersection. Now this is the important part. When you're looking at traffic simulation, traffic analysis, it's the intersections that are the important part, and this is why we need design roads, because we need an intersection object to work with that the traffic is going to be queuing at, where the delays are starting and that sort of thing. So you'll know if it's a design intersection now if it's got these turning arrows on each lane. If it's not a design intersection, it's going to look a bit more like this. You know, there's no stop lines on it, there's no turning arrows. So if you're seeing that, you know it's not a design intersection and one of the roads isn't a design road. Okay, so the other thing you'll need to do is make sure your roads have the correct number of lanes. Now, depending on the data that's imported in the area that you're looking at, that information may come in or it may not. It just depends on the quality of the original data that's being imported, and that varies. We do have the option of getting different qualities of data in different places. So if you want to change the number of lanes, you go to this guy up here, lanes forward, lanes backwards, and then you can change the number of lanes in each direction. So for this one here, if I wanted to change that to 2, you see that changes to 2 lanes forward, and similarly for lanes backwards, change that guy to 2, and off we go. The other thing you might want to do is add a widening at a particular intersection. So you click on the intersection like this, you go to geometry in the intersection card, and you grab this handle here and move it down, and you'll get a widening lane added. And you see those, you've got 2 lanes going straight through there, and 1 lane turning right. And you can edit the size of that, you know, those various handles here and so on. They change that. And this will be translated into your traffic model in terms of the turning. So if I go back up to the area that we're going to focus on, you'll see I've done that for the 2 main through roads here. So at this point I'm going to switch proposals to the base proposal. Okay, and if I look in here, what I've done in this base proposal, this kind of purple area here is just a coverage that's been added to mark where the new site would be developed, and I've added just a simple building in the middle just to give an idea of what that might look like. So the idea is it might be a large retail site with parking lots all around the central building. Okay, so this is where we would create our traffic simulation study area. I've already created one of these. If you're following along, you can maybe do that and create one, you know, either in a different proposal or just delete this one and recreate it again. So okay, you remember I was talking about these widening lanes here, and you can see that where there are left turn lanes, we can't yet model those left turn lanes in the median area. So what I've done for the left turn lane is I've actually added an extra widening lane, and the alignment here doesn't look quite right, but we'll deal with that in the traffic model, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So you can see there's 2 widening lanes on each of the through roads there. Okay, so let's go into the Traffic Analyst panel now. So you right-click on your traffic study area and you go into Traffic Analyst panel. And the first time you do this, you're going to have a delay while it builds a traffic model for you. I've got 2 screens going, so the window appears on the other screen. Okay, so here's what we've got. Now you see that there are 4 kind of green-blue boxes on the main roads. When it's initially created, there will be other zones on some of the other boundary roads. I've deleted those, so you can do that if you're following along. You just select a zone like this and then delete it using the delete key or just using the edit delete function, so that you're left with only 4. If you're using the proposal that I've already created, you don't need to do anything different. You just do that. Okay, so with 4 zones, we have to try and figure out what the demand is between those 4 zones. Now, specifying the traffic demand is one of the most important parts of creating a traffic analysis model. So one of the most frequent questions we get is, where does that traffic demand come from? Where's the best place to get it? Well, that all depends on the location, but we're focusing today on this example in the US, and in many US states the state UAT will have some website or some other source of data for the traffic counts. This is common in other jurisdictions as well. The state Department of Transport or National Department of Transport, whatever it is in your area, will commonly have these type of things that measure maybe annual average daily traffic is what it's called. So let's just open that website and see what that looks like. So this is the Arizona DOT. This is their page. There's a link to this in the notes that were posted, that Eric posted. So if you want to follow these URLs, you can get them from the notes. So that has these reports for traffic counts, so annual average daily traffic, and you can see for different years and so on. And these guys also have a map-based viewer for looking at this. So I've zoomed it in to roughly to the area that we're looking at, and you can see that here we've got a count on that street there, and there's some counts down here where the cross street south McClintock Drive goes onto the freeway. So that's source of data for some of the data that I'm going to use. So I've put that into a spreadsheet here just with some highlights on to make it easier. So these two numbers here, this 13335 and 12967, those are ones that I've taken from the Arizona DOT numbers, and similarly with the north-south values. Now remember, these are what's called annual average daily traffic. So that's basically the count of vehicles in a day, averaged over the year. When we're doing traffic analysis, often what we do is we look at the peak hour. So we're looking at the busiest hour of the day. And translating from one to the other, we can use something called the K factor. I'm kind of simplifying the process a little bit here, but in broad terms, what this means is that if the K factor is 9%, then 9% of all the traffic within 24 hours would flow in the peak hour, in the busiest hour. So these numbers here at the bottom are the 9% of the values at the top. So if we looked at that value, all the traffic coming from A going to all destinations, 13,335, 9% of that is about 1,200. And so that's the value here that we're looking at. And the other thing that we need to do is try and figure out what the turning counts are. So we know how much traffic's going along this road here from west to east, how much of it is turning and going south, how much of it's turning north, and how much of it's just carrying straight on. Now, a simple way of estimating that, and it is only an estimate, is to look at the relative flows on each of the streets and just do some calculation in here to divide up that flow proportionally. So that's already done for you in the cells here. So that's an example, as I say. That's if you have no other information, that's as good a place as any to start with what the traffic's like. I'd like to stress that this is not the only way of doing it. There are many ways of getting traffic demand. One of the common ways is to have a survey on particular intersections and look at those traffic counts and actually count them, either using manual counters or using some sort of automated system. But if you don't have any of that, you have no access to the site, sometimes you can estimate the demand using a methodology like this. Okay, so we'll copy the central part of this table here, and then we'll paste it into our traffic demands. So you go to demands, and we've created a matrix here. So I'll just step through this how you would do it for another one. So put the title in here. I'm just going to create an identical one. Got all zones to all zones. You say OK. You get something that's empty there. Just click in the top left-hand box and paste the numbers in that we had from the spreadsheet. So just go here, copy that, and paste to there, and you see you get the numbers. Now, sometimes it won't add up just exactly. You see I've got Excel formula here summing it up, and there's a like difference of 1, so 2848 compared to 2849. That's just a rounding error because of the percentage changes and so on, the calculations I've done, but don't worry too much about that. Other than that, the numbers look pretty good, and comparing to that. Okay, so once you've got the demand in the demand editor, you need to generate the trips. So I've now got 2 matrices that say the same thing. I don't really need that, so I'm going to delete the second one. So that's the first one that we had there, just identical. What you need to make sure is that you're generating the demand for the correct period of time. Now that's this table over here is the different simulation scenarios that we have. If you're using the model that came from the download, this short morning one will be the one that will be highlighted, one will be active. If you want to activate others, you just click on the name here and press this little light bulb icon to activate that particular one. And there's a different demand for each of them. So what are these simulations for? Well, first thing to stress is these are just examples. You can create new ones and create any combination that you like. Last time we looked at the one that's called quick simulation. It's just a 10-minute run of simulation, generate some quick animation in order that you can visualize that animation in the main window. The short morning, the AM60, is looking at 1 hour, a 60-minute simulation, and this is the most common period that's simulated in traffic. You want to look at the peak hour. The peak hour often happens in the morning. But there's often a peak hour in the evening as well, and often with that the traffic is busy in the other direction. It's all going into the city, if you like, and in the evening the traffic's coming out of the city. So often you want to analyze your area at both of those times a day. We're just going to look at the morning one, but if you wanted to look at your site design, the questions coming to you from the local government authority about what effect that site design is going to have would be, can you show us what it's going to look like in the morning and show us what it looks like in the evening, and give us some numbers on how much effect it's going to have on the local roads. So yeah, we'll just do one here, but you might want to do more than that when it comes to your study. Okay, so once you've created that demand table, the next step that you need to do is to create some trips. And what that means is to create an example of that demand, or like a single day of that demand. The table that we were looking at earlier, this table, is an average, if you like, of the trips, on any particular day. But we want to create an actual example of that, and that's what generating the trips does. So select one from the correct simulation, press plus, and you'll get a window that comes up that says generate trips. You can leave all the default values in here. I'll mention them quickly later. I'll just do this first one. So you get a confirmation one here, just checking that you've got the right number of trips, and you can see that new table has been created. Now, what this does is, if you use a different, it's called a random seed. If I do that again, you'll see it. So this can be any number at all. By creating a second set of trips, there'll be the same number of trips, but they won't be the same exact trips. So they might come slightly different, slightly later in the hour, a different combination of vehicles. The reason we might want to do that and run different combinations is that what you look at there is the stability of your model. You don't want to simulate it just for one given combination of traffic. You want to do it for several to see how your design is going to cope on different days of the week, for example. Okay, there's more on that in the notes. I won't labor that point, but I just wanted to go over that. So once you've done those two things, you select the one that you want from this selector down here, which set of trips that you want. So I'm going to use the T4 one. And then you're ready to go with the simulation. Now, another thing that's new in the September release is that you can actually try that simulation locally now, just for a short period of time, just to check a few things that are going on. So you go to the Cloud menu in Simulation, and you use this button here to press play. And you can see on the webcast it might be a little bit jerky, but it's pretty smooth on my screen. You can see some vehicles moving there, I hope. The other thing you can see, and that's the coloured lines in the middle of the intersection, is the traffic light phases, the signal phases. This is a useful check to see that you've got the right phases working there. Okay, this quick check, preview if you like, of the simulation doesn't generate any results. It's just so that you can make some modifications, and then when you're ready to go, then you send it to the cloud and it generates all the results and the animation that you can run in InfraWorks. This is just a simple check to begin with, just to make sure that you've got all your parameters correct visually. Okay, so let's close that window. There's a few other steps that you might want to look at here. I've done them already, but for example, if you have information about the traffic signals, you might want to change some of those things there. I don't have time within this, within the hour that we have now, to go through all of this in detail, but I've tried to put in quite detailed instructions in the notes. I'll just run through some of that quickly. This is the controller here, the signal controller, or a representation of the controller. If I click on that and bring up this window which controls the intersections, you see all these different tabs talking about turns and groups and phases. The turns are the movements, the traffic movements through the junction, and we've also got groups and phases. So this phase A, B, and C, that's how the traffic is going to move across this signalized intersection. So there's some timing information too. So the timing says that we're going to have this number of seconds of green for phase A, this number for B, and this number for C. Another way of looking at it is the cycle time is 90 seconds, so this number here, and we're going to give approximately 60% to the main traffic movements and 20% to the minor traffic movements. Where you get these numbers from, you may be able to get them from your local traffic management agency. Again, this depends on the jurisdiction who looks after the signals. Or if you can't get those in an electronic form, the other way to get them is to go on site and just use some sort of timing mechanism and figure that out. But in many cases, these timing signals are available from whatever authority it is that is in charge of traffic signals at that intersection.
Gordon, we had a quick question. Is there a way to enter heavy vehicle percentages, pedestrians, bikes, etc.? Is that possible?
Yeah. Okay, so for the breakdown of the traffic, if you go into this demand, there's this thing called divisions. And if you just concentrate on the private vehicle tab here, we've got 6 different categories of vehicle here, and here we've got 5% trucks. So if I wanted to say, okay, there's more trucks in this particular area, I would change these values here. So say I knew there was less small cars I would I'm going to change the trucks to 10%, and the small cars have been automatically changed down to 35. So this window here, the demand divisions, is the one that you can control the different proportions of each vehicle type. And if you go to parameters vehicles, that's where you choose how many different types of vehicles you have. So if I wanted to reduce or create more truck types or different car types, and you see you've got the sizes in here as well, so the length, the width, the height, and so on. So these are the two windows that you use to create different types of vehicles and to control the demand of those. What you might do, and what's often the case in many larger models, is that you'll find that the pattern of demand for heavy vehicles is different from the pattern of demand for light vehicles. What I mean by that is that if this area in here was some sort of retail store or retail park, you might not get that many trucks going there. So you might want to have two different demand matrices altogether. And you'll notice that when you create a new demand matrix, you can choose the division that you want. So if I created a division that was all trucks, I'll do that here. So let's create another division, call it all trucks, and put 100% trucks in there. Then when I create a new one, I could say, okay, this is a demand matrix for trucks only, because trucks might be going to different places and in different proportions. So that's another way that you might want to use to create a matrix for trucks. And you can create as many matrices as you want, as many tables of demand that you want, and they just all add together in order to generate a table of trips. Okay. So now that we've done all that, we've looked at where we got the trips from and tested that the trips are being generated. We've looked at the intersections. The final thing that we might want to look at is how the traffic moves through the intersections. You remember I said before that central turn lanes, we want to be able to model a left turn lane here. So what I've got here is you can see how the traffic there is being sort of diverted into the middle three lanes, and that left turn lane there is really only going to be used by the people who are turning left. So these traffic streams, as they're called, is what you would use in order to move traffic at the points at which the road widens. So I'll show you here briefly how to create a new traffic stream. You select these two different lanes here, and you create a new stream like that. Lane, new stream. And then if you want to get rid of that stream, you select that stream and delete it. Or the other way to do it, if there's a lot of streams in the same area and it's difficult to select, you can actually use the stream delete function here. Okay. So once we've got all the traffic streams set up like that, so we're confident that the traffic's moving between the right lanes, and that's an optional step. You don't need to do that. That's just to, if you're seeing behavior in the model you don't think is correct, then you're ready to go with the simulation. So at that point you close the Traffic Analyst panel. You'll see this syncing message while it changes the model. And then when you're ready to run simulation, you choose the simulation scenario in this drop-down list here that you want. And then you run the simulation. Here it will tell you how many cloud credits are required for your different simulations. Cloud credits are based on how large the area is and how long you want to run the simulation for. So if it's 5 square kilometers and you want to run it for 2 hours, that would cost you 10 cloud credits. Because we're doing less than 1 square kilometer here, and for 1 hour it costs 1 cloud credit, which is the minimum charge. Okay, so that takes a few minutes to run. I've already run it. So once you've run the simulation, this is what you can see. So as well as the animation that we looked at last time, you've got these colored blocks on the intersection that show you both the queue length and the average delay. Now you can view those averaged over the whole of each approach, so for all lanes, or if you change this up here to say per lane, you can see it per lane. On that view you can see that in this northbound approach there's some delay for the left turners and some for the through, but in general it's less than a minute. So it's 59 seconds for those two, and that one's 64, so it's not too bad. And remember that this is a signalized intersection, so it's counting the time that they would just be stopped at the red lights anyway, waiting for their turn, so that's actually not too bad. The colouring is based on the highway capacity manual levels of service, so anything level of service E and F is coloured red, and everything else is coloured blue. Okay, so that's showing you, given the traffic demand that we've taken from the DOT site and an estimate of what the traffic signals are at that location, what the traffic queues would be like. Now we want to go and look at one of the other scenarios for when the site has opened and we've got a different type of access there. So I'm going to go to this single access one now. What we've done here is we've added an access road on West Chandler Boulevard here. And you can see that you can turn into it from both directions. So there's a break in the median, you can turn left from the west side if you're heading eastbound. And likewise, when you're coming out, you can also turn left from the site and continue in the eastbound direction. So you may be allowed to do that. That just depends. It's often part of the negotiation when a new site's being developed about what type of access you want. So we're going to look at two different types of access. One with a single all-access intersection like this, and the other one's going to have 3 different access points, but they're going to have limited access to them. And we'll run the simulation on both of those and compare them. So here, when I open the Traffic Analyst panel, one of the things I've done is I've created a new demand zone for the site. So you see when I go into the Traffic Analyst panel, you can see that site is in there in the central area. If I go into the demands and show the tables, there are two tables here. One is exactly the same as I had before, so that's what we're calling the through traffic, the background traffic that's not going to or from the site, just as it was before. And we've added a second matrix called site traffic, and this is just our projection of what traffic might be in that peak hour to the zone. Now there are different ways of coming up with those numbers. There's a link in the notes to the ITE trip generation manual, which is one of the resources that people often use to look at, if it's a particular type of site, how many trips will go to it and from it during the day, and you can take the numbers from there. Because we're modeling the morning peak, I've assumed that there's more trips going to it. There's 400 trips going to it and 200 trips coming from it. You can see that when I click in one of the boxes in this window, there's arrows drawn in the main window to show where those trips are going to. So if I go that guy there, you can see that's 100 trips going from D to X, so from the south here to the site. So these two matrices add together. So that's the through traffic, and this one is the site traffic. We go through all the same steps before generating trips for them, and you can test the simulation locally if you want, and then once you've done that, you run it on the cloud in order to generate the results in the animation. So again, I'll close that. Here's the short morning one again. Remember to select short morning from the simulation list, and here's the results. So I'll set the animation going as well, just so you can see that happening. And one of the interesting things to note here is that there's a longer queue on the left turn lane. You can see that both from the vehicles that are actually queuing and this graphic. The queue is coming back to, it's about 82 meters long, and the delay is about 65 seconds. So the delay is not much more, but the queue is coming back. And we haven't modeled all the roads here. You can see I haven't actually modeled this minor road here, just for simplicity, but you can see that the queue is actually coming back further than that minor road. So, you know, that might have an effect, and we'd be interested in seeing what that would be. There doesn't seem to be any problem at the actual access junction itself. There's plenty of capacity on this road. There is a little bit of a queue there, but in general it doesn't seem to be causing a problem. So that all looks okay. Which is maybe counterintuitive. You might think that an extra intersection like that with extra signals in it, you know, that might cause a problem and cause, you know, queues to build up. But in fact, this seems to be running okay with the projected demand that we put in there. Okay, so that's one of the scenarios that we've got there. The second scenario is we'll have multiple access points to the site, but we'll only allow what we call right in, right out access. You see here that if I come out of traffic simulation for a moment, you can see that at that intersection you can only turn right out of it and only turn right into it. To set that up, I'll not do it here, I'll do it on one of the other intersections that's away from the traffic study area, just so I don't mess anything up. If I select this intersection here and edit it, if you go into the lane markings mode, you can click on one of the approaches. So if I go on this guy, there's 3 lanes going in there, say a left turn is possible. You can see that by doing that I've opened up the median, and that's no longer right in, right out. So if you make sure that there's no left turn allowed there, and also similarly in this one, that only a right turn is allowed there, then you get a right in, right out intersection, and that'll be modeled correctly in the traffic model. So that's what we've done. We've created 2 of those on both of the major roads, one there and one there, and we've also created an all-access intersection on this minor road that goes around the back. And you know, that's actually a lot more roadway work and 3 intersections to create rather than 1. But you know, someone might say, well, I think we want that because otherwise you're going to have too much effect on the through roads, and you know, we don't want that sort of disruption creating extra queues. But in fact, when you go in and you look at the simulation on that, we load the short morning one just as before, and again we'll run the simulation here. You'll see that in fact the left turning queue here is longer again, much longer. If we hover over here, the queue is 140 meters long, and the average delay is, you can see that, but it says 291 seconds, so that's like almost 5 minutes, the delay on the left turning. And the reason for that is that there's now significantly more traffic on the through movement here, and this intersection doesn't have a protected turn for the left. The vehicles turning left have to wait for a gap in the oncoming traffic. There's a protected turn for the main street, but not for this street. So because there's such a large number of people making that turn to go left, because that's the only way that they can go in, and there's more traffic coming out here, then the delay is much longer. That delay, if you think about it, is actually caused by the fact that there's a lot more traffic coming out here and traveling south on this road, so there's a lot more coming out, and so it's delaying the traffic traveling northbound. That wouldn't necessarily have occurred to you if you hadn't done a simulation, so it's quite a strong recommendation of the first proposal that we had. While the second proposal might look better on paper, when you run a model, a simulation model, the first proposal is clearly better in terms of the way it operates. Okay, so I know I've covered quite a lot there in a short space of time. I hope you've managed to follow along some of the steps. As I say, we've put quite a number of links and other tips in the notes that can be downloaded. One of the things that's in one of the proposals, quite a few people have asked for, is can we model pedestrians in any way? So there's a third proposal that has a pedestrian crossing in there. Right now you won't see any pedestrians in the main InfraWorks window here, but you will see the traffic stopping where the pedestrian crossing is. So if I just switch off the coloured bars for a moment, if we go in here, the pedestrian crossing's about here, going across this road, in the middle of this road, and you can see that's what these cars are queuing there. If I stop that and just go into the Traffic Analyst panel, you can see the pedestrians moving in the Traffic Analyst panel on a sort of wireframe kind of view, or not wireframe, but just a much more simplified, the graphics are much more simplified. So we go into the simulation window here. Here we go. I don't know if you can see those pedestrians moving across there. So in the notes that come there, there's full instructions on how to set up that crossing. You can see there's actually queuing coming back from the previous intersection right across that pedestrian crossing, so that's causing a little bit of trouble there. But of course that often happens in real life too, so it's a way of modelling the what-if scenario of what you would do if that happened. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the walkthrough there, but I guess we've probably had quite a number of other questions, so I was going to leave some time now to answer those questions.
Yeah, we do have a few questions, Gordon. One is, are the created tables shareable with other users or coworkers? And I'm thinking back to where you were working with demand and trips and things like that. Are those shareable?
Yeah, so everything that you create in your model is part of the InfraWorks model that you can share. So in the model that we've saved for you to try out, all those demand tables are in there, and it's part of the proposal, part of the InfraWorks model. So I guess the answer is yes.
Okay. There's a question about exporting or saving the simulation video externally. Can you address that?
Yeah. At the moment, if you want to capture the video that's on InfraWorks here, you can use the Webcast tool. So if you actually, not sure that you can. Normally when I capture the video from there, I use a third-party tool. Okay. There is a tool within here called Webcast, but actually in this, I'm getting ahead of myself, in the September release of InfraWorks, the Webcast doesn't work on the traffic simulation part, so you need to use a third-party video capture tool in order to do that.
Okay. I think you're referring to Screencast, right, Gordon?
Oh, sorry. Did I call it Webcast?
Yeah.
Got Webcast on my mind, yeah.
I think we all knew it.
Yeah, yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, you've got in here this launch screencast. So you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Another question was, is it possible to, the wording is it possible to leave the simulated traffic running in the model but have the simulation boxes turned off? And I think they mean the queue boxes, so you can see the cars but not the colored blocks. Is that possible?
Yes, it is. So if I go back into that traffic simulation view, This selector here, results volumes, that controls the boxes. So if we just want to see the animation of the vehicles, so there it is there without the boxes. So this results volume allows you to choose between showing the boxes per approach or per lane or off, and then you just see the animation in there.
Great. Next question is, can you get HCM reports out of the model?
Not directly. So HCM is Highway Capacity Manual, and those levels of service that we were talking about, those are calculated internally, and you can see them if you can see the colors displayed are linked to the Highway Capacity Manual levels of service. As yet, we can't generate reports out of this.
Okay. Next question is, can you model traffic control, such as closing down a lane for construction?
Yes, you can. So if you go into the traffic analysis panel, there is what's called lane restriction. So you can create some sort of restriction on the lane for like temporary closure or even vehicle type specific. So you could say, oh, this lane is only available for construction traffic, or this lane is only available for transit vehicles or something like that. So that's in if you click on one of the lanes and adjust, oh, sorry, it's come up on the other screen, then you go to the lanes and you put in this restriction and you choose one of the restrictions that you've defined there. So those are defined in this restrictions menu here, so you can create restrictions for construction or transit lanes or whatever and add them to lanes.
Okay, and one final question, it says, do you have the report results? So I'm assuming that means, can you somehow export the results to some sort of report?
Right now you can't do that. That's one of the things that we're working on now. As we said before, we can only really talk about the functions that are in the software right now. So I can't really tell you much about that. But of course, that's what you'd want to be able to do is save these results as a report. But right now, with the current version, you can't do that.
All right, that was great questions. By the way, those questions came from Willie, Bill, Cameron, and Sean. So thanks to you guys for the questions. And we had some earlier questions from Jeremy as well. So thanks for that. I'm actually going to take back control of the screen. Give me 1 second. And I just wanted to remind everyone that our webcast series continues, and on October 7th, which is the first Wednesday in October, we'll be having a webcast entitled Collaboration 101, and we'll be looking at the best practices for sharing your models and working as a team using the collaboration tools in InfraWorks 360. Aside from that, Gordon, great job, great presentation. I want to thank everyone who attended once again for showing up and spending the hour with us. Thanks for all the great questions. The handouts, the example model, the PDF, and the traffic demand data are all available on the forum. In fact, I'll go back to that slide so you can see once again where to find that information. And I want to encourage you to always participate in the community, visit the forum, visit the community site, and you never know how you might help out someone else who's just getting their feet wet and using InfraWorks 360, and they may be looking for some answers. So it's a great feeling to be able to help folks out with their adoption of the technology. So thanks again. Have a great day, and have fun using InfraWorks 360.